Thank you for being with us here tonight. This is really a meet and greet session, and I've invited those in Bay Vista, the western portion of Bay Vista, who live west of Rich Avenue from Old Bay Road south to Pass Road. So the first question is, when do I actually represent you? And it depends on who you speak with. At one of the council meetings, a councilman asked the city attorney, when does this take effect? And the city attorney said, well, in my opinion, immediately. And the council person said, well, in my opinion, it's not till the next city election in 2025 because I'm still representing the people who voted me into office. So it depends on your perspective. Currently, that section of Bay Vista, which I just described, is in Ward 4. And now that will become part of Ward 5 sometime in the next 3 years, given what I just explained. So if you have any complaints, call Councilman Deming, but if you have any compliments, call me. All right, that being said, let me just tell you a little bit about me. I'm Paul Tisdale. I grew up here in Biloxi, graduated Biloxi High School a number of years ago. I was an elementary teacher, an elementary principal, and then worked at Biloxi High School for a couple of years as an assistant principal. Went to Bay St. Louis as a superintendent of schools there from 1992 to 96, and then moved back to Biloxi as an assistant superintendent under Dr. Drawdy for Biloxi schools for 8 years. And when Dr. Drawdy retired, I then was appointed school superintendent, and I retired after serving 7 years sounds like I'm doing hard time, after serving 7 years in 2011. And then for a couple of years, I attended council meetings, and I thought, gee, this is like a school board meeting, only you get to ask the questions instead of having to answer the questions. So anyway, I ran for office, was unopposed, and now I was just elected to my third term, so I enjoy what I do. As I said, I'm very familiar with Biloxi, having grown up here. There are my business cards on the table where you came in. If you've not signed in, please do that. And if you leave your email address, I'll add you to my e-blast list if you're not already on that list. What can you expect from me? And I made a few notes here, and then when I'm done, really, I'll see if there are any questions. First of all, I put out a weekly one-page informational email. If you'd like to receive that, just send me your email address and I'll push it to you in your email every Sunday morning. You usually get it about 7:30. I've been doing that for the past several years. There are typically 2 ward meetings annually that I conduct, both of them here at the Snyder Center. One is about a month before spring break. Usually that's in early March or late February, and the other about a month before Cruising the Coast, which is going to be tail end of August or early September. My ward meetings are videotaped, and thanks to Mr. Creel and the Public Affairs Department. So if you're unable to make a ward meeting, then usually you can find it on my website or on the city's website, and you can see what you missed. Additionally, I typically have a written summary for those folks who'd like to see a shorter version of the meeting and what the high points were. I update my webpage weekly. It's www.tisdale4biloxi.com. I return all my calls within 24 hours, with very rare exceptions. So if you call me, if I don't pick up because my ringer's never on, because I hate being interrupted with phones ringing, but I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I check my phone frequently. But within 24 hours, I'll call you back, usually within an hour or 2. If you want to discuss an issue, I'm happy to meet you at your home. Just give me a call, and usually I take pictures of the issues or concerns that you have, and I work with Public Works and other city departments, or Parks and Recreation, or the Engineering Department, to try and resolve the issues that you're concerned about. I'll copy you on those emails if I have your email address as well, so you can see what I sent to the department directors or administration. I'll add streets with gutters and curbs in that portion of Bay Vista that I'll be responsible for, to see if I can get it on the street sweeping schedule, and I'll ask that those streets be swept 2 or 3 times a year. I don't make the decision on how frequently they're swept, but I can typically get them on the schedule, and usually they'll accommodate me with my request. I'll follow up on trash piles. If you have trash piles that aren't picked up, just give me a call. I'll go by, take a picture. I'll get with either Public Works or with Pelican Waste or Waste Management to help you resolve that issue. And let's talk about that just for a moment. Generally speaking, there are a couple of things you need to be aware of. If you're going to get rid of the leaves in your yard, don't rake them in a pile and leave them. If you'll bag them, Pelican Waste will pick them up. Pelican Waste will pick up, if you're cleaning out your garage, sort of things like that. But if you're renovating your home or part of your home, or you have a contractor that's doing the work, that contractor, as part of the price to renovate whatever it is you're renovating, should be hauling off that waste. If you have tree services come in to take down a tree, which you got a permit for if you needed a permit, these tree services aren't to cut down the trees and just pile them in your front yard. They should be hauling off that tree waste. So it's just, I just want to make that note that in the Pelican Waste contract, there are some things they don't pick up. Okay. The next item is there's a drainage culvert that empties under Churchill Drive. And for years and years, it was really kind of an open ditch, but they piped a lot of that. And as it comes east to west, it goes under Churchill Avenue and flows west to under Big Lake Road, and then round and about and empties out into Back Bay. But there's a lot of sediment and trash that ends up there, particularly after storms. And at times we have trees growing there, so I'm going to do my best to have that dredged, shall we say, at least once a year on a regular basis. Burned out street lights. I typically drive my ward probably twice a year at night, noting which street lights are out. But if you get my e-blast, there's always information there on how you get in touch with Mississippi Power. So in Ward 5, we deal with Mississippi Power on the street lights that are out. If you're north of the bay, you deal with, I believe it's Coast Electric. So down south here, on the south side of Biloxi, south of the bay, you're going to deal with Mississippi Power. So they have a website. You can announce or identify the pole where the light is out. There are a few questions they ask you. The important thing I would point out is if the light's on or off or out or defective, my understanding is the city's still paying for that light, so it's to our benefit, everybody's benefit, to know if there's a light out. Usually the poles are numbered. If not, just the nearest house address and which side of the street it's on. If you can give that information to Mississippi Power or tie a ribbon around it or something to mark that pole, typically within a week, Mississippi Power has come out and replaced the light. So that's doable. I drive the roads, all the roads in Ward 5 about every 4 to 6 weeks, noting things. But I'm sure there are a lot of things I miss, and some of those things probably are a burr under your saddle or a pebble in your shoe, and if that's the case, just call me and let me know. Also, if you want to send me pictures, typically I like to go see for myself to get certain angles to emphasize things that I pass on to Public Works or engineering. But the point is, if you call me, I'll get back to you almost immediately, certainly within 24 hours. And I'm happy if you want to speak with me personally to meet you at your home. We'll arrange a time to do that. Having said that, at the bottom of the agenda that's available on the table, I do want to point out a couple of things under the reminders, and then I'll take any questions you might have. The city employs what they call a citizen representative. His name is Craig Ross. His office number is 228-435-6271 or cross@biloxi.msus. And basically, if you call in with a concern or an issue that you want to bring to the attention of the administration or the different departments, you can call him, you can email him, he'll direct it to the appropriate department, the appropriate person. So he's out there, he's working for you. And that's typically who I use when I report the issues that I'm concerned about that citizens have brought to my attention. Again, my Ward 5 e-blast is sent to you every week. In the bottom left portion of that email, the content is always the same. It's phone numbers that you might find handy and so forth. By the way, the city is looking for a number of employees. There are a lot of vacancies, good benefits, decent pay. If you know anybody who's looking, if your husband only works one job and you want to get him out of the house, I'm telling you, we have jobs in the city. So we're looking for folks. The next ward meeting, as I mentioned earlier, will be in late February or early March. That'll be about 4 or 5 weeks before what's typically spring break, the first weekend in April, as I recall. Having said that, I've talked for about 10 or 11 minutes, and I'll just be quiet and listen. Are there any questions? The question is, what can we do about school buses speeding down the road in our neighborhood? The easiest thing to do is just text me. Let me know what bus number, what street, and I'll work with the school district and bring that to their attention, and we'll see if we can't get that resolved. My number is 228-297-6800. Another question. Yes, sir. Gentlemen.
What's going on with the Pops Ferry Bridge? Is anything else being discussed about that whole thing?
What's going on with the Pops Ferry Bridge? I will go out on a limb here. Not really. I think everybody will agree that we need a new Pops Ferry Bridge, preferably high-rise, preferably 4-lane, 2 lanes coming and going. And I think what the mayor has done is actually a good thing. He started looking at non-traditional solutions. And the reason is because traditionally, the mayor or some representatives from the administration go to our congressional delegation. I made the trip with the mayor in the past year, and you visit your congressional members and you say, we really need your help. The biggest issue, the number one ask, as the mayor pointed out, is a new Pops Ferry Bridge. And we'll pretty much all agree to that. The only issue is who's going to pay for it. So, as I told somebody earlier, I want hair. I don't know that I'll get that. I don't know if we'll get a bridge paid for by the feds or through federal earmarks. But the thing is, the mayor's looking at all the options. And I would say that generally the feedback is most definitely we don't want a toll bridge. On the other hand, I was out of town the last week. I think the bridge was stuck up like 3 times within a 3-day period, a 4-day period, and it's aggravating. Now, having worked for the school district, when the Pops Ferry Bridge is down, all the school buses going north of the bay to the high school, the junior high wasn't there at the time, but Biloxi High School, they either went across the I-110 bridge, or if they were picking up students here in West Biloxi, they went over in the Gulfport down the interstate over to the high school. So it's a pain in the neck, but clearly things are going to stay the same, obviously, until something changes. So I think the mayor's looking for something to change. He's looking for different options, non-traditional options. How can we get a new Pops Ferry Bridge? So what do I know? I just told you what I know. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Next question.
What you just said. Is there any way putting up a bridge is closed temporarily, meaning it's stuck. It's not going to be a tugboat going there for 5 minutes. Because I live on the south side of that, so when I drive from I-10 down here, I can get all the way to the base of the bridge just to be told to turn around. Can't the city come up with a flashing yellow light system, something to take care of you and say, hey, you might as well turn around now, it's going to be a while.
So the question is there something the city can do, and this is related to the Pops Ferry Bridge when it's stuck open, is there something the city could do a couple of blocks north of the approach to the Pops Ferry Bridge and a couple of blocks south of the approach that would notify the public that the bridge, that there's an issue with the bridge and the bridge, it can't be used at the moment. The first thing that comes to mind and what I would suggest to anybody listening, and I think this would help you, is the city has a service, Be Alert. All you do is text your phone number. There's information on how to get on that text list, how to be messaged with traffic accidents and alerts like this. I was receiving these alerts that the Pops Ferry Bridge was stuck open. I was in South Carolina 1 week, and the next week I was in Texas. I was getting them. So it's a free service. They keep you informed. There was a cement truck that was overturned on the I-110 loop, and traffic accidents on Highway 90, lanes closed and things like that. So that's what Be Alert is for. I would say that's probably the best thing to do if you want to stay informed on those kinds of issues. Off the top of my head, typically I don't know. Sometimes I see police cars there, with lights flashing. I think that's pretty much standard operating procedure. I'm not positive, but I think that's pretty much what they do. Any other questions you might have? Anybody on this side of the room? Anybody on this side? Yes, sir. Yeah, honestly, I hadn't thought of that. Usually in the B-mail the city puts out, usually they put a blurb in there. I know I send the word out in my e-blast weekly, and I also put something in mailboxes in the newly added territory. But I really hadn't thought about that. Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate your free suggestions. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming. Mr. Creel has given me the cut sign. So thank you all for paying attention. If anybody needs to get in touch with me, if you're in the newly added territory, that western half of Bay Vista, you can email me at ptisdale and the number 1, ptisdale1@yahoo.com, or you can call me or text me at 228-297-6800. Thank you. Have a nice evening.